All right. How's everyone doing today? It is a lovely day here, not too cold here in Los Angeles as per usual. Very pampered by the weather here. Okay, excellent. All right. So for those who don't know who I am, my name's Rudy. I've been bartending for 9+ years, done beverage. I've bartended for a long time, managed for a couple years, and then also did beverage directing. Um, Primarily here in Los Angeles. I do, however, like to go to New York frequently. In New York, it's a very different atmosphere. Here, Los Angeles, it's going to be more about fruit forward cocktails, stuff of that nature, just because of produce. Whereas in New York, it's going to be more spirit forward, shrub here and there, stuff like that, things that have shelf life. Um, so, yes. Uh, that's why I like both of them. It's two different worlds. I will have to one day go to New Orleans, another cocktail capital of USA, but that will be another time. All right, so today's class is pretty much what to expect when you start as a bartender. Because it's always kind of helpful to just go into bartending or go into your job, just knowing exactly what you're going to be faced with. So I figured this would be a very helpful lesson. So firstly, it's always good to prepare yourself with the proper attire. Okay, so the attire that you would want to make sure to purchase is non-slip shoes. This is required by law in many locations. So always have non-slip shoes. It's always also very good to have these types of shoes just because one, they're designed to be comfortable, and two, it's always better to be safe. You are working with a lot of liquid, and it can get pretty slippery. I recommend using maybe Doc Martens. They are kind of a bit heavy, but if you get Doc Martens with like a Dr. Scholl's, um, those will last for a long time. You can also get some nice Skechers versions of non-slip shoes. If you go to a website called Shoes for Cruise, they will give you all of that information as well. So yeah, so shoes for cruise. I would look into that. Let me go ahead and type that in here too. So shoes for cruise. It's a good way to get started. And I know that some places, some shoe spots do sell them. Like Payless Shoe Source will probably sell them if they still exist. And then DSW, also another spot where you can find those. So it's very important to get those non-slip shoes. I would recommend getting some black slacks. Uh, they seem to be pretty frequent as far as uniform goes for a lot of places. So maybe get yourself some black slacks. If anything, once you get hired, they will let you know what their preferred attire is, or they will actually give you a uniform to wear. Typically, it'll be like a shirt. It won't be pants most of the time. So again, I want to say 80% of the time, buy yourself some black slacks because you're going to be needing them for those restaurant or bar jobs. Um, yeah, so good. So we got the uniform down. Buy yourself shoes. Mm, what else do we got here? All right, so a big tip here, because once you start going, you are going to be trained. The training process will take about 5 days, sometimes more, other times less. Just depends on how fast you can get everything down by memorizing their entire cocktail menu, as well as knowing where everything goes. A big thing that I struggled with when I was starting at a new company was knowing where everything was. That'll take some time. A very good way that has helped me a lot has been just taking photos of the place where everything is. So, for instance, here we have the bar, and over here we're going to have ourselves like a well of some sort, right? With ice as well as shelving. So the shelves will be here, the ice will be here. Make sure to take a photo of that just to know exactly where each of those spirits goes. Just memorize what it visually looks like because there's nothing more annoying when a gin is moved to the other side and a bourbon's in its place. Because when, again, as I've explained before, being in that flow, you don't want to get disrupted by anything. So mise en place is a very important thing. You want to do everything in its place. Okay. That includes the back bar. All right. So making sure that everything in the back bar is exactly the same as well will help you a lot. There have been some establishments that don't really care too much about it. Maybe it's not super high volume, but if it is high volume, that is a very good way to really pump out those cocktails at a very timely manner. All right, so take a photo of the back bar, take a photo of the well, but not only just what is in the front of the house, but also back of the house. Once you go into the walk-in, maybe take photos of where everything is. Typically, the walk-in will be organized just because it has to be by law, by dairy product, meat product, already cooked products, raw products. So you'll see shelvings and then you'll have your bar space, I guess you could say. And that's just something that you may see. A walk-in is just a massive fridge that you walk into, and there will be shelves along the sides, and there will be a lot of food products, a lot of juices, maybe some spirits, wine, maybe. So you'll see all that there. There's also the freezer where you might have like clear ice or a specific type of ice in it. Purees that are frozen. So you want to get familiar with both of those things. You don't want to constantly be asking for stuff all the time. It can drag a bit. So that is my advice there for that. One thing that I'm always looking for, and this is something that you should write down in some notes or something, always know where the rags are going to be. That's a very big one. Rags are like one of those you don't think it's gold, but it is gold in a restaurant or bar business. So always know where the rags are going to be. Also know where the garnish skewers are. For some reason, that's a very big one. So know where those garnish skewers are because that'll help a great deal. Okay, any questions about that so far? Okay, awesome. So best advice I can give right now is learn your classic cocktails. All right. The classic cocktails are going to help you a lot. Just by knowing these, you can easily see that there's a lot of similarities between the cocktails that the restaurant or bar or restaurant and bar has created. Typically, they will make riffs of these classic cocktails. Riffs is just like playing Mr. Potato Head. That's a big saying that was said in the books of Death and Co. What that essentially means is that you are playing Mr. Potato Head with cocktails. You're switching out the eyes or the spirits for something else, and now you've created a different cocktail. So juices, same thing. Maybe you have a split base of something, split base of like a spirit or like a modifier. So it'll be a lot easier for you to memorize those cocktails if you've already memorized similar cocktails. My favorite cocktail that I've always talk about is going to be the margarita because I feel like that is the most important cocktail to know in all of in everything. So the margarita, I'm gonna go over it once here. As far as our spirit for the margarita, you're going to be using a tequila at 1.5 ounces. So that's equivalent to a shot. A shot of tequila or a shot of anything is going to be 1.5 ounces. So we're adding a shot of tequila into our margarita. Then we're adding 1/2 ounce of everything that comes after that. Okay. So 1.5, 1/2 ounce, 1/2 ounce, 1/2 ounce. Okay. So 1.5 of tequila, 1/2 ounce of an orange liqueur. Okay. So tequila is our spirit. Our orange liqueur is going to be the modifier of the cocktail. Modifier is what pretty much dictates the flavor profile of a cocktail, or it's something that enhances a certain flavor of that cocktail. So as far as orange liqueurs go, there's going to be so many different kinds. The one that you're going to be probably familiar with the most is going to be triple sec. Triple sec, you see it in a lot of cocktails, and that is orange liqueur. What we have been doing now, the modern thing that we do is we change that orange liqueur for something a little bit different. So my favorite go-to, which is not here at the moment, clearly because I've used it a lot, is Pierre Ferrand Dry Curacao. I'll write that in here. Okay. Pierre Ferrand Dry Curacao. Okay. Curacao is Portuguese for heart, but it's also a varietal of orange. So that's where you're getting the Curacao from. This one is a very good orange liqueur because it is brandy based. So it's nice, smooth, and it has a very nice viscosity to it. It has similar properties to Grand Marnier, a little bit more bold on orange, just goes really perfect with your margarita. The next ingredient is going to be 1/2 ounce of lime juice. Here, we've been seeing a lot of changes in the bar industry. They used to be using a lot of uh, lime juice from a jug or lime juice from a bottle. That is starting to slowly become obsolete, thankfully, because we're starting to use more fresh lime juice instead of that, which will take your cocktail to a whole other level. It just makes it better. And the whole reason for shaking this cocktail is because of that acidity and dilution. But acidity is the most important, which you need to aerate in order for it to really give out those fresh flavors, really cut through that alcohol, and just help with creating balance in your cocktail. All right, so that's your acidity, lime. Your next ingredient is going to be the sweetener at 1/2 ounce as well. This is the part that can maybe get a little bit tricky, but not so much. So you can either use simple syrup, which is in most recipes. Simple syrup is just sugar, equal parts with water. So in a lot of places, it would be a cup of sugar with a cup of water. But in our case, since we want to be the best, the standard is to use weight. So we'll have to use a scale for that. So equal parts sugar, water, simple syrup. There are other options. My preferred is going to be agave syrup. 1/2 ounce of agave syrup just brings out those agave flavors from the tequila, and it just blends super well with everything else. So I highly recommend using agave, but honestly, you're very much welcome to use any kind of sweetener that you wish. Brown sugar is fun, demerara is fun. So play around and see what you like best. Another random little tip that has nothing to do with it. Make yourself a little saline solution. Saline solution will be 20% salt to water. So that solution, put it into a dropper and drop maybe 1 drop of that, and it'll really enhance those flavors of the margarita. It works really well, especially in a frozen margarita, which is blended with ice. So that's just a random little tip for you to enhance those cocktails. All right, so definitely take that cocktail with you everywhere. You will see a variation of a margarita in most, if not honestly, all establishments that have a full back bar. Okay. All right. So, okay. Um, yeah, so let's go back a little tiny bit here. I did talk about the margarita and its four parts. It has four different parts, and that's essentially what's making up a cocktail: the spirit, the modifier, the acidity, and the sweetener. That alone can help very much with everything else. Um, if we look at a bunch of different menus, you can just identify those things. You can identify where the spirit is, the sweetener, the modifier, and the acidity. And that will help you memorize those cocktails a little bit better just by knowing that the bare bones of a cocktail. All right. So there's going to be different, like every place is going to be different. There's going to be opening procedures, there's going to be mid-shift procedures, and there's also going to be closing shift procedures. All of them will have their own different types of responsibilities, and everyone has their own program. So they all are kind of similar. So I'm going to go over some of those similarities with you so that you can go in and just pretty much know exactly what is going to be expected of you. And so first, I'm going to start with the morning shift because morning shift is typically where you're going to be starting. Morning shift for a bar is going to be a lot slower than most places unless it's a Sunday. If it's a Sunday, people are going to come for those mimosas. They're coming for Bloody Marys. They're coming for you. So um, make sure to prepare for those Sunday shifts. But morning in general, the way it goes down is you're going to come in. Your bottles are going to have what's it called? Well, in the industry, you just call them nipples, as lovely as that sounds. They're just like these condom-like things that just go over the tip of the pour spouts. This is your pour spout right here. This right here is a pour spout. Let me grab a bottle real quick. I unfortunately do not have what I'm talking about, but it's some of them are little black caps that just go right over this tip, and then other ones are massive plastic condom-like things that just go over the entire thing. Those are to keep fruit flies away and just pretty much make sure that no random debris goes into your spirit. Yeah, pretty much. So that's one of the first things that you're going to be taking off. In some places, what they like to do is they like to take the entire thing off. So they'll take all the pour spouts, put them into a bus tub, and take them to get washed. And then the next morning, the person will come back, uncap all of the spirits, and then put those pour spouts on top. In some places, you are going to be prepping lime juice for the day. So you're going to be cutting a lot and then squeezing a lot, sometimes with your hands with the hand press, or this is a hand press right here, something like this, just squeezing and then tossing. Or you're going to get yourself one of those juicer machines that you put on top and it just does all the work for you and squeezes all the juice into whatever container you have. So my recommendation for that is always cut them in half as much as you can or as much as needed first, and then just start juicing them all so that you can have one solid rhythm the entire time. It does create that like speed that we need. So everything helps. The other thing is you are going to potentially be putting everything back. So if you do have, let's say, vermouth or wine products that need to be refrigerated overnight, maybe liqueurs that you want to preserve, syrups that you want to preserve. So you'll have maybe fridges back here. You'll open the door to your fridge, and they will be right there for you. You just grab them and start setting up the bar. Remember when I said to take a photo of that? This is where you're going to be maybe referring to that photo to make sure that everything is going in its place and you're not misplacing something. There are just too many bottles to remember where everything goes. Okay. All right. So we have that. We're cutting. In some cases, you will have to line the trash cans. Sometimes at the end of the night, when the bartenders take the trash out to the back, they won't reline it. In my case, for my bar programs, I require you to realign it that day. Sometimes you don't, so that's something to keep in mind. Another thing is sanitizer. Okay, there are red buckets, like small, about this big. They will need to get sanitizer in them and maybe 2 or 3 rags, depending on how busy or big your establishment or the bar is. Okay, so the sanitizer, you can find them in the back where the dishwasher is. The dishwasher, it'll have this big mechanism and then this really long table. The table will sink, and then 3 compartments sink, and then maybe some space for drying dishes or just keeping dirty dishes until it goes through the process of cleaning. On the wall, there will be 3 different dispensers. One's like a floor cleaner, the other one will be like a degreaser, and then the other one that you're looking for is going to be that sanitizer. So you want to get that red bucket and fill it with that sanitizer. The sanitizer, you just it'll have a tube. That hose, it's a hose. You put it into your red container and then you press the button and it should consistently be running until you let that button go. That's what most of these most restaurants and bars will have. And it's always good to use that mechanism because it will give you the right amount of sanitation to water. Otherwise, it would just be such a hard process to be pouring sanitizer and pouring water and knowing where that is. Okay, so do that. That's one of the biggest things to do as well. It's always good to have clean sanitizer water and rags to make sure we clean everything and wipe everything down. Okay, so lots of prep. There's also garnishes that we have to worry about. Okay, in the morning, you're worrying about garnishes, and typically you do the garnishes and all that stuff maybe when you've already opened. So you're going to be prepping a lot of stuff before lunchtime, essentially. There will be people here and there maybe, but it's just to keep yourself busy, honestly. So make sure to cut your garnishes, your lime, your lemon wedges, whatever it is that that place needs. Make sure to get those all prepared. Again, they will have their own process for these things. Another thing might be mats, bar mats. They are for assisting with the non-slip. They are also very good on your back too, which I didn't realize until, semi recently, but they're very good for your back. They're like a nice squishy surface. So a lot of the time it'll be maybe in the back already hosed down. All you need to do is grab those and start setting them up wherever they need to go. Beer taps. So beer taps, each one of them will have a spigot, and the spigot will have a brush-like cap. So the cap itself has a mini brush on it that goes in and it stays in. You can use this cap to clean the beer tap as well, that tip portion. But in the morning, you basically take those out, and a very good thing to do is put them into carbonated water. This will kind of help keep them soaked as well as just clean off any debris, if any. So that does that. So just keep it on the side. Don't lose any of them just because they are such a small product. and also put everything in its place. Sometimes there will be a grate just on the side there. You're gonna have to pull it up and place it back down. There are some appliances that could be around, like a, a water pitcher to heat, or a coffee maker to start brewing, or a tea. All of that also might need to be turned on. There might be boxes where you have to take those boxes and start putting everything and restocking it. So those are all just some of the things or some of the duties that you will be faced with in the morning time. Now, as a mid shift, when you come in, typically your mid shift will start maybe around 12, maybe 1, maybe 2 or 3. So you come in middle of the day, and your duty is to pretty much assist with all the procedures that the morning person couldn't get to. The the morning shift person will let you know, oh, I still have to do this, this, and that. So there will be a list provided by that person, and you essentially just help. That's the duty of a mid shift. They help with everything they can, and then they help with everything they can to help the night shift before they leave. So their job is pretty easy, almost just by the procedures being fed to you, essentially. So you're just ready. Another thing that helps is once you do kind of get the idea of what happens, you just know what you're supposed to do. All right, and then that leaves the night shift. The night shift is the one that may let you off at around 3 a.m. in the 3 a.m. the next day, or in some cases like restaurants, maybe 10 to 11 or 12 even. So it all just depends on where you're going to be working. As a night shift, you come in, you start pumping out all those cocktails, you make sure everything is in order. Once the bar closes, that's when your closing procedures essentially start. In a lot of cases, you'll see that bartenders will start closing, doing these procedures before they close, because they want to get as much of it done as early as possible, because everyone wants to go home early and they don't want to stay for that long, right? So the procedures are normally goes, it's just wiping down the entire place. So all of the fridge doors, wiping those down, all the countertops. Some places will want you to wipe down the bottles because it does get very sticky. So definitely get used to that. Having that rag, start cleaning all those bottles, setting them aside, cleaning the shelves to those bottles, and then putting them back where they came from. Burning ice is another thing. So to burn ice, that can be pretty easy. You just scoop into a large bucket and then dump into a 3-compartment sink, and then just let the water run. There have been places where they have a hose that can connect to a sink, and then you just run hot water through it and just add that hose into that well, and then it just continuously flows that hot water, burning that ice so that you can wipe down your well once that's done. Okay. So that's for the well. Putting stuff away, like your lemon juice, your simple syrup, into the fridge, fitting your garnishes into the fridge as well. Garnishes, you might have to plastic wrap them. No, you should plastic wrap them, excuse me. So plastic wrap those, put them away, unless you have to throw them out and then make fresh new ones the next day. Taking out the trash, that one's one of those that not too many people want to do, but it has to be done. So consolidating trash, taking out the trash, breaking down boxes, potentially you might be sweeping and mopping. Other establishments, mostly corporate, will have a cleaning crew so that you don't have to do any of that. The thing that you need to do is just wipe down the tabletops, the countertops, all of that. Let me see what else there is. I mean, that's pretty much what it is, just putting everything away and then closing up shop. So in some cases, you will have to lock up like the front door, the spirit cage, because there will be a spot maybe in the back or up front with you in a room where there's a cage that protects the alcohol from getting stolen. So they call it the liquor room or the liquor cage, that you need to be pretty much locking up. Um, Maybe even some patio furniture you'll have to lock up as well. So these are just a few of the things that are going to be expected of you. So knowing all this, you have to know that being a bartender, it's going to take a lot of stamina, a lot of work hours as well. Um, yeah, so, but again, it always just depends on which location you go to and what their procedures are going to be. Okay, awesome. So we got all of that in. Let me go over some random little tips as well on how to just random little tricks that a lot of people don't know, which helps with your speed and just helps look like you know what you're doing. All right, so I got my little tiny ice wall right here with my little ice scooper, and I'm going to I guess I'll just make a daiquiri for I'm gonna make two daiquiris just so that you can see the magic of daiquiris. All right. A good thing to do when you're practicing is always save yourself some of those bottles that you may buy, or save bottles that you know your friends might buy. Because this way you can work with different sizes of bottles for pouring, for speed tests, whatever it is that you want to be practicing. This way, you'll just be used to using these types of bottles, if not more. When you are behind the bar, it won't be daunting. You'll be like, oh, I've played with this one before. It's not gonna slip or fall. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and put all these pour spouts in. All right. So familiarize yourself with all the different kinds of bottles. All right. I have for my daiquiri, I have my rum, I have my lime, and I also have my simple syrup. Okay, again, simple syrup, equal parts sugar to water, preferably by weight, but you can also do by volume too if you need to. All right, so we're going to start with our cheapest ingredient. Okay, that's something that's incredibly attractive to see with a lot of management, with owners. So during interviews, make sure to mention something of that nature because it just, again, it makes you look really good. So we're going to start with our simple syrup since it's our cheapest ingredient at 3/4 of an ounce. Okay, here we go, 3/4. And what I like to do with this specific jigger is I like to leave it in to my small shaker tin. This way it just hugs the walls and it consistently keeps pouring. That way I can just move on to the next thing while the syrup, which is viscous, it might take some time to pour out completely. I leave it in while I do the rest. Okay, so that's why I have these two different types of jiggers. This jigger is a 1/2 ounce to a 3/4 of an ounce. Bought this at Cocktail Kingdom. It's a little bit pricey. You can use maybe like a Bar Above or Barfly. They do some good work too, and you can find that on Amazon. So something like that. Okay. And then I have my other jigger here, which is 1 full ounce to 2 ounces. On the insides of these, there are grooves. There's engravings of lines which give you different measurements. So this one also provides me with 1/2 ounce, 3/4 of an ounce. And this one will provide me with 1.5 ounces, which is the standard shot. So be on the lookout for something like this because that will help also speed up the process. So we're going to do lime, our second cheapest ingredient, to at 3/4 of an ounce as well. So simple syrup, 3/4, lime, 3/4. Now our last ingredient, which is our spirit, the rum. And this one's going to be a full 2 ounces. Okay. Bam. 2 full ounces. All right. So, and I did say we were going to be doing 2 of these. So let me do one more. All right. So 3/4 of an ounce simple syrup. 3/4 of an ounce lime juice. And then 2 ounces of our rum. Perfect. Excellent. There we go. We have everything in. Now, as far as ice goes, we want to fill up the ice as long as it's just above the wash line. Okay. So the wash line, it is basically the ice has to be touching the bottom all the way to the top of the water, and that water is going to be that wash line. Okay. My ice is still floating, so it still needs more ice. Okay, so pretty much this is where I want it. In most shaker tins, the most that you could do is probably 2. I've seen people push 3, but the quality of the cocktail is not going to be the same. All right, so always make sure that it goes right above that water. You probably can't see it, but it's right above it. If you do more than that, that's completely fine. You just want to make sure that you at least get to that part. All right, so we're going to place our big tin on top of our smaller tin here. We're going to go ahead and give it a light tap or a good tap just to initiate that vacuum effect that's going to take place here. We want to make sure that this is completely flush, or at least one side of this is completely flush together, while the other one will have an open gap. Okay, so when we look at this, it should look something like this. Okay. Now when we start shaking, we want to make sure that this open portion is facing your side. So when you shake, any water that might come out, if it's not sealed properly, will come out on you or behind you, which is way better than it coming towards your guest. That would not end very well. So we have this together. Now we're going to start shaking. Everyone's got their own signature shake. It will come over time. One thing that I like to keep in mind is that I like to make this shaker tin. I like to bring it to a point where it's what we call too cold to hold. Too cold to hold will give you like a very nice dilution and a very nice frost on the edges, which I don't see very often. But a good way to do it is by creating like a semi DNA strand. So you want your ice from inside. First step is to hit each bottom of the tin. So bam, 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 right? So it's hitting each bottom. But the second step is to make sure that it kind of gives like a spiral as it's going back and forth. Okay. You want to shake about 12 seconds, 9 to 12 seconds. Okay. What you'll want to see when you open it is you want to see a white cap of foam. It doesn't have to stay there. It's just like a nice white cap of foam, some big bubbles, but mostly little micro bubbles, and that will be your signifier that you shook this well. You aerated the acidity to a very good point. Okay. Another thing, it will create that vacuum, so it will get stuck together. A good way to open this is to smack this little portion to give this portion a bit of a burp. So it'll suck in some air, making this easier to pull off. Okay. Another good trick is once you do that, you want to spin it. You don't want to pull, you want to spin it. So spin this like this so that it can come out. All right. And then let's go ahead and pour this into some martini glasses. Okay, let's use these. All right. So we got these martini glasses here. And what I'm going to do is I will use, if I can find it. Oh, here. I'll use my strainer here. What you can see on the strainer is you see how there's a hole here and a hole here. That's just a line. And then there's this metal piece that's right in the center. Let me see if I can, yeah, right there. So you see how there's that metal piece right in the center? That's going to be a spot for a rim. So since this is two different cocktails, what I want to do with this is I want to make sure that this portion of the steel meets with this seam in between both of these glasses. All right, so when I do pour, they're pouring into two different glassware at the same time. Now, as long as I keep this steady without tilting it like this or tilting it like that, it'll make sure to give an even pour on both of your cocktails. If you do start leaning towards the side, one cocktail will start to fill up faster than the other. What you do then is just come back or just start pouring one by one to make sure that they will end up level. Okay, so that's a little trick. Not a lot of bartenders know that trick. So take that with you and create / make a bunch of cocktails at a really nice, timely manner. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and give us a small little break here for 10 minutes, and then we'll come back. Or let's do 5 minutes. All right. We'll come back at 5:50 and then do our remaining 10 minutes. All right. I will be back.